It's because I've been sat in that chair
Yeah,
already.
you've messed up my butt crack.
What?
As in the chair.
Oh.
The groove in the chair, not
So when I did the interview with James on Tuesday, I was sat there.
Yeah.
And with the meeting I've just had, I was sat there.
Yeah.
Because they were sat there, it's so easier. If you were here, I'd have sat in between. But you didn't turn up. You didn't show up for the interview.
I was busy.
We literally did a whole brand new show, brand new podcast. You didn't show up.
I was going to go into the original one, but you were like, I hate you, Joe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us. We haven't turned the main lights off either. We're a bit disjointed this morning. I don't know if you can tell. This afternoon as it is actually.
We were just going through boxes, having loads of fun, enjoying life.
Yeah, I'm somewhat invigorated right now, which means right up until the show went live, we've been busy working. I actually don't know if it's going to turn it off, see if it makes any difference. It'd be interesting to know actually for this particular show. We do have main lights above us. Slight difference, not really.
Oh, the red looks nice and glowy over there.
It does, doesn't it? Anyway, thank you for joining us on this fine Thursday afternoon at 13:30 for the Liam and Joe show. The show of Liam and Joe. If you haven't already, please make sure you smash all those magical YouTube buttons for us. Hit that like if you enjoy the content. Smash subscribe if you haven't already. And hit that bell notification icon if you want to be notified every single time we go live or drop a new video. And there is more content coming. We have just been involved, I can say this, we've just been involved in a meeting with GW this morning, part of the reason why we're a bit all over the place.
They beat him.
Yes.
They're like, stop saying bad things about us.
They didn't say that, Joe, didn't they? Let's not give people ammo. They didn't say that at all.
They didn't say that.
But we are planning lots more content and bringing more content to the channel in the near future. I just need to make it work for Joe as well because, of course, it's going to predominantly involve the pair of us. That being said, on Tuesday, I recorded the first ever pre-recorded podcasty-based talk show, which I need to edit, and I'll be editing that over the next week or two. And when that goes live, it will, in fact, go live to members only first on the Monday, and then the members only restriction will lift on the Saturday. So 5 days early access for members. Yeah, that's nice. And when it goes live on the Saturday, we are also going to be putting it on podcast platforms.
Oh.
iTunes, Spotify, because it's edited, right? We're not responding to a chat, so I feel like it can go on that kind of platform.
I like that. We'll be everywhere. Complete market saturation.
Yeah. So we are going to be putting it out on the on iTunes, on Spotify, and podcast apps like that. I have been paying for Podbean, which is a podcast hosting service, for the last 6 months with the intent to bring something to it. Like I was saying earlier, though, we're having a conversation here. That kind of content was just kind of impossible in my house. It would have been weird sat in my lounge interviewing someone, and it was even weirder in the studio if we just stood there behind the table, not actually playing the game.
I mean, loads of other people do it.
Yes, we have higher standards, Joe. So I'm looking forward to that coming out in the near future. Now, what I've also started doing, literally this week, what I started doing was last night, I'm trying to increase the engagement on content post the live show. You guys, during the live, fucking incredible, and I love you, you're amazing. But post live, the engagement isn't great and the views don't do amazing. They do okay, they do well, but they don't do incredibly. And I'm trying to increase that engagement. And the ways that we can increase that engagement, things like likes, things like comments after the stream, and things like super thanks. Mr. Joseph Svensson will beat me if I don't talk about super thanks, which you can put on if you're watching on demand. So what I'm doing on every 40k show now, Joe, at the moment, I'm saying, give me a topic for the Liam and Joe show. And if there's a good enough topic, we'll talk about it. Sometimes we won't do it because I'll already know what I want to talk about because there's a release or an article coming that we'll know about that you guys won't. But on the whole, I'm going to ask you guys for that topic. The first person to comment last night with a topic suggestion was Mr. The Big Bad Peter Gaming, who's also just gifted 5 of the finest memberships. Thank you, sir, you're amazing. And he picked a topic that currently is a discussed Warhammer community article, drilling barrels. Now, we're actually going to expand this topic out because I don't feel like we can make this topic pad for an hour and a half. We are going to expand it out. We're going to talk more about general hobbying because I don't want to just focus on the 10th edition rule set all the time. And I don't want to just be negative about stuff all the time either. I was talking to GW literally this morning, and I talked to Luce about this last night. I get a little bit sad, Joe. Genuinely feel a little bit sad. Do you know why?
Well, life is hard.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
Positive topic, friendly topic, have a laugh.
Yeah.
180, 200 viewers. Negative topic, let's all hate Games Workshop, despite the fact that we literally base our whole channel on that business. 400 plus viewers.
I know. People love to hate.
Fucking grips me.
I've got a question. that's part of the topic that we're going to talk about.
Okay. Are you peeking a bit too early?
I haven't asked you about, so we'll get on to that.
But we're going to talk about the drilling topic to start with. But we're going to widen this out. We're going to widen this out to mould lines,
Drilling, widening.
mould lines, painting, converting, bases, all that kind of shit. Battle ready, non-battle ready. We're going to talk about basically standards, I guess, and talk about what is the standard, what should be the standard, should there be a standard, all that kind of stuff. And I don't really have. We have a standard on the channel because we're showcasing this stuff to people.
Yeah, something.
We have a standard on the channel.
We have standards.
Which we sometimes meet.
Yeah.
Right? But is that standard a common standard across the whole of the gaming world? Should we be applying a standard? Does applying a standard reduce accessibility? That's the kind of shit we're going to talk about. If you've got comments on this as well, obviously please feel free to chuck in big colourful postcards for us. Chat's in front of us. Chat will keep moving. If a comment pops up that we really want to talk about, we'll try and grab it before it goes. I've got a mouse so I can go back to comments previously. But typically, if you really want to grab our attention, you're going to need to stick them on big colourful postcards, aka super chats for us. And Joe's got the iPad right in front of him, which means he'll be able to pull up all the fan funding stuff as well.
So I could be like, thank you, Adrian, for the one, give to membership.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brandon Legaze, for 5, give to memberships.
I actually genuinely think Brandon only gifts now to get you to read out his name. I think he said that in the past.
He wants me to get in trouble.
So let's start on the actual Games Workshop article, right? So the actual Games Workshop article from this week is specifically about drilling barrels. Now, Joe and I have actually had this argument and conversation. I wouldn't call it an argument. We've had this conversation in the past, right? So historically, I have been a serial barrel driller.
Yeah.
And you have not.
I haven't, on the sense
Just
that...
to confirm, you'd like to call Mark Bauer, mobile?
Say no.
No.
Okay, I won't do it. Who do you want to call?
No one.
No problem, I won't.
Thank you.
Why have you got Siri up in the corner? What have you done?
I don't know.
This is the problem when tech outsmarts Joe.
So I don't generally do that based on the amount of stuff I have to build and paint.
So is it purely a time saving thing for you?
I think it is, yes, because if you think if I build and paint a Space Marine army in a month, right? I'm saving an hour of my life, for instance, not drilling a whole bunch of barrels essentially, because it's not a case of going whoop whoop done. Like you can go in through the side because obviously it's already got the vents on the side vents.
Yeah.
So those are already there, and you got to drill through slowly and make sure it's all nice and good. And then you have to sit there like that, trying to line up perfectly in the middle. That's another reason why I don't tend to do them, is because it really grips me when you've got like a 10-man squad of Space Marines or Terminators, they've got their bolt guns out, and it just looks like a bunch of googly eyes because they're all off at random angles.
You're aware that there's things you can do to stop that from happening. So if you draw a line across the middle of it, and then a line down the middle of it, you find the middle point, and then you push a little pin in, and then you've essentially centre punched your barrel, and then you just drill in that point.
Yeah. So time, because how long much? Because you've got to sit there and like whoop, and then go there and that, and then whoop, and you can think the amount of time that takes to do it on one model, for instance, and you got to replicate that before you even done the rest of it. Huge amounts of time.
I mean, I don't disagree that it takes time. I'd argue that if you don't paint your barrels, if you don't pin your barrels, drill your barrels, do you then paint a black dot on the end, or do you just leave them silver?
Leave them silver.
Where does the bullet come from, Joe?
The gun. But it's a plastic model. Like, it's a spaceman in space, or an alien. Like, on your shuriken catapults, you cut a line.
I tried in the past.
Yeah,
I did try.
You try, but you don't do it.
But I feel like drilling barrels is easier because it's just drilling a hole. Like cutting, so shuriken should be like a little smiley face, logically, right? If you look at the barrel, and it's an angled. And I tried to use a scalpel and cut out a little groove for the shuriken because it annoyed me that it didn't come from anywhere.
It wouldn't be difficult for Games Workshop to put a little dent in there, I guess, like a little, like they've done it on a couple models where they have done, like heavy bolters, for instance, have the full side vents and main barrel hole, but the heavy bolter then barrel comes in two parts.
So I think, do you know what? I think this is part of my issue, though. Part of my issue is some of the weapons some of the big Captain models have pre-drilled barrels. Some of them don't. And I think that's where part of my issue lies. Like, I feel like if the GW approach across the board was that everything was flat and smooth, I'd kind of be less bothered about it.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. And then I end up in a position where, like, hey, I've got these 5 Sternguard veterans from the new Sternguard kit, and one of them has a drilled barrel that's not drilled, it's just because he's holding a heavy bolter, and the other 4 don't. I'm like, oh, now it's inconsistent.
Yeah, but then I think it's also a sign of quality without taking away from all the work I've done over the years. Right, like, so I have decided to go on a quest, a journey to have what I'm terming a best painted army.
You want to try and win some best painted awards.
I want to be able to go to a tournament and someone can go, that's a really nice army. I like that. That could be in for a chance of winning best painting. It's striking. It's wonderful. Because I can paint, and I know I can paint really well. But the problem is that we go, there's a new release in a couple of weeks' time, have to do a whole army for it. So it becomes a case of time versus quality.
What's a wow stick, Kai, by the way? Carry on.
So obviously I have to sacrifice certain things to get things on the table for the stream. Whereas I've decided to do a White Scars army, because it is a striking, nice army. But it's something I can do in the background and get done, so eventually I can take it to events. But I had a practice model I was doing last night, and one of the things I did do was drill the barrels, because he's holding a bolt pistol on his bike, so the storm bolters, or the combi bolter on the front, I've drilled the barrels on that, and I've drilled his bolt pistol barrel. And it is an instantaneous change, but it's not an obvious change, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's like when you do a table to play games on, you bang the terrain on, right? You go, here's a bunch of buildings, there's a road. But drilling the barrels is essentially like putting barrels and pebbles on a table. They're not important to the table, but it changes the intensity.
So here's a genuine question for you. By the way, I'm seeing people's comments in chat as well. I love this topic. I love it. I'm gonna come out with it right now, right? I'm gonna come out with it right now. I don't give a shit if people drill the barrels or not. I actually don't care. When it comes to 40k and the hobby in general, you do you. You do what makes you happy. And if you don't give a fuck about drilling barrels, don't drill them. And if you do, drill them. I literally don't care what you do. I have no skin in this game. If I come up against someone on the table who hasn't drilled any barrels at all, I'm like, whatever. So this is an interesting question. You've just said you want to do best painted, so you're taking extra time and effort for this White Scars army.
Yeah.
Part of that's drilling barrels.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with your painting whatsoever.
It doesn't, but it's...
Do you think you need to drill them to be in with a chance of winning best painted?
I think people will look at it, because when you look at a model about whether in terms of best painted or best conversions, people will go... They're always, if you were to go for best painted, there'll always be some smart, snarky person. They'll be like, not paint his barrels. And then that becomes a fixation point for everyone else. Because someone's got, he's not painted his barrels, or drilled his barrels. So by drilling the barrels, I'm taking away something from you. Or the ability for someone to find a negative point with the model. If they were like, he's drilled the barrels, but he's missed a mould line, I could be like, I've missed a mould line, it's not a problem.
So I've been building Dark Angels,
Yeah.
right? And part of building the Dark Angels is building Deathwing Terminators. And I am in a genuine quandary at the moment, sat at home, as to whether I can or can't be bothered. Genuinely, it's about effort here.
Yeah.
Whether I can or can't be bothered to paint the barrel, to drill the barrels on those Deathwing Terminators.
Yeah.
And one of my main reasons for it is because I would say I've drilled tons and tons and tons of barrels in my hobby because I've always done it, right? But I've always done that, but what I've also done is probably had 80% of them be in the middle. And the 20% that aren't, annoy me more than them not being drilled.
Yeah.
So your googly eyes reference right at the start, right? And it doesn't have to be 2 to make it googly eyes. It could be a single barrel. And the amount of times as well, I'm quite meticulous with them. So the reason why I have a relatively high success rate for drilling barrels, 80% plus, is because I take my scalpel, a sharp scalpel, I'll draw a straight line down the middle, I'll draw a straight line across the middle, and I have the center point roughly, right? I then get a pin. This is how much effort I go to. I get a pin and I push that pin into the center point that I've just crossed to make sure I've got a starting point for my drill. You get your pin vise and you put your fucking pin vise on the end and you look and you're like, I'm definitely in the middle, and you start drilling like I'm 100% in the middle. I'm definitely in the middle, and then what happens is it just for some reason it goes off to the corner like that. You're like, and then you end up with a barrel that's like fucking like a crescent moon. Because it's literally, that's the worst one as well. I had a barrel once where I drilled it and it was so bad I had to actually use sprue goo to make the rest of the barrel and sculpt it back so it was a full barrel again. And that 20% is enough to actually make me sit there today and look at those Dark Angels and go, I might just leave them.
That's why you just have an army, don't have guns.
Well, shields and maces, exactly.
Yeah.
But I've genuinely thought about using a Sharpie.
Yeah?
Paint the whole model, paint the barrel silver.
They're not very sharp though. You can't drill a hole with a
Paint the barrel silver and then get my Sharpie and just go black dot, there we go. And because it's a Sharpie, I can just rub it off, black dot.
Yeah.
So if I miss, I miss. But with a barrel drill, that's the other thing as well. If you had like tons of spare weapons and you fucked one up, you're like, I'll just do another one, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't in these kits, and they're expensive kits. And I am very concerned about the fact that if I drill a barrel, I'm going to get it wrong and it goes off to one side, or I miss the centre and it looks fucking odd. I'm like, well, that's an expensive kit, and I fucked it just because I was so fussy about having a hole in the end of my barrel.
It's also because like Games Workshop does sell a barrel, but they don't push a drill, but they don't push the drill on people. So Games Workshop is not in a way of saying, drill your barrels. It's like someone said there, it's like an early form of gatekeeping. It's almost like a level of superiority. You know, like, I drill my barrels, you do not.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Ultimately, the people that drill barrels or the people that don't drill barrels aren't the problem. Yeah. The people that are the problem are the people that have such a strong opinion, they feel the need, and this can go either way, they feel the need to shout down the other side. And that's what I'm saying. I don't have any skin in this game. I don't actually care either way. If you want to be a person who drills your barrels, drill your barrels.
It's like someone who turns up with a full either forge weld resin or a full metal army of old, and they go, I've got an all resin army, therefore I am better than you.
Yeah.
Because you never see people that drill barrels on las guns. It's only bolt guns that people care about. You know that? You don't go up to a Tau player and go, why haven't your pulse rifles got holes drilled on them?
I drilled pulse rifle holes.
Whatever.
I had to get a smaller drill bit.
You've got to be that guy, haven't you?
No, but again, and then again I had the same experience. 80% of them in the middle, 20% of them not, and it annoyed me. So I'm now in a place I've been hobbying for years and years and years.
You've gone to the other camp now.
Yeah, we literally make a career out of hobbying, and I'm now sat there going, I don't think I'm going to. I don't think I care enough. You know, genuinely don't think I care enough.
I wouldn't be fussed if Games Workshop, obviously, because they have the 2 indents for the side vents. If they had a little belly button in the barrel, you know, a little dent in it that's like that you can just put a little bit of
paint in. Yes.
Just give it a little bit of recess.
So I've done that. I've started to drill barrels and gone like half a mil deep and left it alone.
Yeah.
Because as long as I can paint in it, then I'm happy.
Does size matter, is the question. How big should your hole be? Does your hole need to be wide and shallow? Or
I
thin and deep?
This is what's interesting is I feel like I drilled barrels not because I cared about the fact that. So I asked the question, where does the bullet come from? I actually don't give a shit. Because someone in chat said, yeah, but when a Lehman Russ is firing around the corner and all that can see the opposite enemy model is the track, where does the bullet come from? I'm like, I agree.
Yeah.
I actually don't care. I knew that you didn't paint them, so I was just trying to play devil's advocate.
The way I explain that to people, by the way, which is something that Games Workshop's not really done, is that the pose of your model is not representative of how it is in that exact second. It's a
moving battlefield.
Yeah, you're like Ragnar is not always on his tiptoes hanging off a rock.
Is he not?
No.
Oh.
He's not just Superman in every way.
Well, T-Beard says, like most things, by the way, T-Beard, I know you're not a member. I've not seen your name before. Honestly, never a truer word spoken here, right? In life in general, you can apply this, right? Like most things, the problem is that most people feel they need to share their opinion for something like this that has zero impact on anyone or anything. Chill out. I think, so I've just talked about the fact that I drilled loads and loads and loads of barrels, right? Here's why I wanted to talk about this topic when Big Bad Peter came and put it on the 40k show comments last night, right? Genuinely. I drilled them not because I wanted it to be more aesthetically pleasing or because I was like, where did the bullet come from? Because I haven't drilled my shuriken catapults and I've tried and I didn't drill this and I didn't drill that. I drilled them because I felt like I had to for fear of potentially being ridiculed by people if I didn't. And then what I had was an experience where 20% of my models, the barrels weren't exactly where they should be, and that kind of ruined my hobby experience, and I didn't want to use those models because now they look worse than if they weren't drilled.
And the people that said you haven't drilled your barrels will be the first ones to point out your barrels not straight.
Exactly. And now I'm kind of, the channel in general has kind of been pretty freeing and invigorating. It's very interesting. We get a lot of people in chat and you get to see lots and lots of people's opinions. And it's very interesting that the majority of people just don't actually care.
Yeah, I think we need to kind of take drilling your barrels to a section of the hobby where we kind of find the new Horus Heresy kits. Because you've said it before, the new Horus Heresy kits are a modeler's army. Someone who really likes in-depth posing, variations, cool poses, lots of parts, right? And then you can add, and obviously they've put holes for magnets and they've put holes in it or gaps where you can put green stuff. That's where drilling your back, if you want to go to almost diorama level.
Well, and here's the other thing, right? There's a little part of me nowadays that does think to myself, with GW and their level of model design, their ability to design now, because we know the way they design it, it's no longer sculpted, right? Yeah. These things are now built on 3D modeling programs before they get printed. Honestly, even something as small as a lasgun or a shuriken, I don't think it would be that hard now for them to just, like you say, just put an indent in.
Yeah, because you can't have a stick because of how the molding process works. If you've got a sprue to have holes in the barrel, there needs to be a piece of metal jutting into the thing, which means that you can't then lift it up. Otherwise, you've got to pay someone to individually fit 1 million tiny pinheads into a mold, and that's a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. But we can talk about this as a wider topic, which we will do. But I've also noticed that you've got some things to talk about.
Yes. Thank you, Christopher Sanford. Expectation. Drilling barrels doubles hobby time, so I spend way less money per month. Reality. Drilling barrels doubles hobby time, so my pile of shame grows twice as fast. Yeah.
Fair.
Well, that's like the thing. Like the White Scars army I'm going to do. I am drilling the barrels. I am going to an extra level in terms of what I want to do painting wise, but also converting wise. Like I spent an hour building one Terminator Captain last night.
There's an interesting comment in there, right? Let's say you didn't pick White Scars for best painted and you picked Guard.
Yeah.
Right, and you wanted to do, because the new Cadians are beautiful, you wanted to do a super incredible pretty.
If I was going to paint Guard into best painted style...
Would you drill lasgun barrels?
No.
So someone said, Brian...
anyway...
It's funny that most of this stuff only applies to Space Marines.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Also, if I was going to paint them... Oh, something under my chair. I would do the... Cities of Death Cadian colour scheme, the blue, grey, reddy one that they had. Oh, I love that colour scheme. But I've never wanted to do it because of the amount of time it would take.
But you wouldn't drill lasgun barrels?
No.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's always Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines.
It's always I was having a discussion with my mate Dan on the weekend where with how the new rules work, units can take any guns that they want, right? So previously, everyone took disintegrators on Ravagers and Raiders in Drakari, right? But now, Dark Lancers are better. So at Beachhead, there are a whole lot of Drakari players that were all running Raiders, Ravagers with disintegrators on them as Dark Lancers. And everyone was fine with that. Because not everyone knows what a disintegrator or a Dark Lance looks like. But if you take a las cannon, in a Space Marine squad and say it's a melty melter, people are like, no.
It's not.
Yeah. It's the same as like when if you run Blood Angels, you've got to paint them red. But if you're running like Eldar and you paint them blue and say that they're Yandin, no one cares.
Do you think drill barrel drilling applies 99.9% of the time to bolt guns, storm bolters, bolt pistols?
Yeah, someone said earlier, do you drill the barrels on your plasma cannons? No. It's only bolt guns that people care about. Plasma cannons tend to come in two parts.
Yeah.
So
but like, okay, so I wouldn't have said plasma cannons. I'd have said, because this is the one that I've done before, and I did it once and swore I'd never do it again.
Yeah.
Assault cannons.
Yeah.
That's 5 barrels you've got to drill round.
And you've got to match them. It's like if I drilled a barrel on a plasma gun once, it looked wrong to me. I was like, that's not natural. That is not how God intended. So I will never drill a barrel on a plasma gun ever again.
Thanks for the 10 anyway, Christopher. You're a legend.
Thank you. Thank you, Drapkin. How do you paint white scars black? Question, Munch. Mark. Ha ha ha. Very funny.
Go onto the Horus Heresy page. Go onto the Horus Heresy page of the Warhammer 40k of the Warhammer 40k or the Warhammer website, if you can get it to work, and go to their Terminators.
They're all black.
They're all black.
The
Eben
Keshig.
Yeah.
So the Keshig are like they're veterans. So you've got Eben Keshig, who are the black Terminators, but then they've got Keshig on white, who are white. But so yeah, I don't know what colour to do the Terminators. I either go Heresy colour scheme, so everything in the army is white, and then I do the Terminators black, or I just do it all white.
What do you think, Jack?
Do I go white or black on the White Scars Terminators? I'll let you choose.
I think it depends on what they are. I think if you're painting, for me, if you were painting 40k kits, I'd paint them white.
Yeah.
And if you were painting Keshig and you were using them as assault Terminators, I'd paint them black. That's what I would do.
Okay.
I think.
I need to decide whether I'm going to use normal Terminators or assault Terminators. Thank you, Starius. Someone needs to tell Liam to stop being a slave master to Joe for his painting.
When have I been a slave master?
The problem is, Starius.
Hey, Starius, by the way.
Hello, you've been not
Long time. How you doing, dude? Love you.
I really fucking love Warhammer.
Right.
A lot. And I like all Warhammer. And I am always demanding things. Games Workshop was here today. And Liam had to go and get all the terrain because I was asking for more terrain. Right? And I was like, you should ask because you've got all this to do. I was like, they wouldn't know that if you hadn't shown them, you know?
Who's the real slave driver for the painting, Jay?
I am.
This is on camera, by the way.
I work like everyone else 40 hours a week. However, I do vastly more. But the thing is, though, my job is my hobby, and my hobby is still my hobby. So my partner will walk into the living room to my desk, and she'll be like, "Why are you working?" I was like, "I like painting." So that's what I do to calm down. So I'm really calm at work all the time. I'm not a rage-filled monster.
I often try and tell him, genuinely, to stop working.
I think sometimes I'll play Call of Duty in the evening, for instance. I'll play Warzone, and I'll come off at like 11:30 at night, and I'll be angry because I play a game that fills me with unrelenting rage all the time. And
it's true, he gets angry.
I finish, and I'm like, I've wasted 3.5 hours. I could have been painting. So what I do is I go and paint to calm down before I go to sleep. And then I find myself at 2:00 in the morning painting models. Or like I did last night when I was supposed to be painting, I told myself I'm going to finish the last Blood Knight so that I can go on to the other vampire stuff. I got halfway through it, and I was like, I do White Scars now. So I went into my garage, found a bunch of bits, basically found all the models I needed for the army, put it into a tub, so I organised it, and then I spent an hour trying to convert a Terminator. Turns out, my house and my garage is full of bits. I was like, I need a left hand
that's open,
or in a fist that's not holding a barrel or a stick. And I basically need a left hand not doing anything because I want to do it in a cool pose. And you know what? Games Workshop really don't produce enough empty hands for Space Marines.
No.
They should.
I feel like they can make conversion packs.
Yeah.
For characters.
Like, if you collect Blood Angels and have sanguinary guard. There's a couple, because obviously their bolters are wrist mounted, so they're like that. And Grey Knight Terminators. Some have them, but not many. And I feel like that's what we need: empty hands, so you can make cool poses. And they could be like dabbing.
Don't do that.
I won't. But yeah, I converted a really cool model, and I took a picture, and Liam's not got it to show off, so I'll put it on Instagram or something.
I've got a picture. I can put it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'll tag you as a collaborator.
We really should do more with Instagram.
We should. I'm bad at it.
Yeah.
When the channel grows to the right size, we'll have a social media
We should
manager.
be one of those people that's like post every day.
So what we'll do when the channel's massive and
Yeah.
we have staff, we'll have a social media manager, and they can just be responsible for taking photos of us and putting it on Instagram.
Every day I'll be like, I don't have your Warhammer show off. Here's a picture of my Steve, the scabby cat. Scabby cat.
So yes, this is something that's important to get out there because I feel like it's often misconceived. Joe is his own slave driver, and I'm often telling him to calm down, stop, take some time off, relax, have a day off. It's you're the driver.
I know, I just love it. Like I've got Soul Black Grave Lords I'm currently doing. I've got a Bretonian army I'm currently doing. Now I've decided to do White Scars for some reason, and I want to kind of expand the Flesh Tearers. In my garage, I've got tubs of. Like I had to go to Tesco's to buy tubs because I realised that I've got bits everywhere, and I need to organise it into armies. The Space Marine one is the biggest one, but now I decided I need to make subcategory tubs for Space Marine.
Well, I'd like to kind of, to a point, go hand in hand with you there and do a World Eaters fantasy army alongside your White Scars, because I've come to realise in the last month or two, I actually just don't care about being competitive or whether it can do all the actions. I don't care. I like to play with the armies I like to play with. And I've got newfound invigoration in World Eaters and Dark Angels because I just love them. There's no other reason, I just love them. It's three of my favourite things in the world. Well, I guess you can add Guard for a fourth, but predominantly World Eaters, Dark Angels, Eldar. I don't really have any desire to do a touch Eldar at the moment. Dark Angels and World Eaters. So I want to do a World Eaters army for myself. That's not the one that you painted. The one that you painted is glorious, but the kits are so fucking nice. I want to do some myself anyway. I look forward to the day that we potentially have an opportunity to throw White Scars versus World Eaters. That'd be fun. Although I kind of want to paint them white.
Do it.
Heresy colours.
Medders did a really good how to paint white. I was watching it last night and I watched it multiple times so I could write notes. But he's done a really beautiful Heresy World Eaters army using the new Heresy kits. And do you know what the difference is? Just use bare heads.
I love bare heads.
And then he had some of the hands holding the chains.
Well, that's another thing. So all the World Eaters Berserkers that I was building on my own, they were all built with bare heads because I love the World Eaters helmets, but I wanted to do something a bit different to the channel. Now, with the channel, for speed, right, because it makes sense, you basically put all helmets on because it's quicker to paint a helmet than it is a head. But one of the things I was talking about this with James on Tuesday from Siege. There's a couple of things I'm bad at doing. I'm bad at painting white, so this would challenge me, and I'm very bad at painting faces and heads, and I want to be good at both of those things.
Yeah.
So it gives me an opportunity to really work at it, which I think is important. But anyway, thank you, Darius. Just wanted to get that out there. I'm not the problem. Sometimes I am, but on this particular occasion, I'm not the problem.
Also, I really want to thank our Thanes because I was like,
It's such a fucking scrounger.
I was like, I need to do White Scars, and then I decided I wanted to do White Scars. I wanted to do White Scars for ages, and I was like, doing it, I'm committing. And I wrote my list online, and then I was like, on the app, I was like, I need 18 bikes. That's a lot of money. And then I went on eBay and discovered that bikes are worthless because they're terrible. So I went to the Thanes group, and I was like, tin cup moment, I need 18 bikes. And they were so generous. So I've got all the bikes coming towards me. Thank you very much.
If you think Joe should paint his Space Marine White Scars Terminators white, put a 1 in the chat. If you think he should paint them black, put a 2 in the chat. Right? Whilst we get through the rest of these super chats.
Yeah.
1 in the chat for white, 2 in the chat for black for his Terminators.
Also, one of our Thanes very kindly bought me a gift on the weekend. It's a beautiful Jester model, right? The only downside is is I probably should have known your name already, but you introduced yourself as, hi, I'm one of the Thanes. And that was it. And I'm very entirely grateful, and I feel like a terrible human being for not knowing your name, but thank you. Just wanted to say that. So when you introduce yourself, you need to go, my name is, blah.
Oh, it's pretty split, Joe.
Oh.
There's more twos than ones right now.
Do you know how to set up a thing on
Yeah, we're not going to.
a poll?
There's more to. I'm just trying to get chat moving because
69.
the chat rate went down quite a lot, so I'm trying to get chat moving again. There's more twos than ones right now.
What was 2?
Black.
Okay.
I feel like the idea of doing them as Ebon Terminators for you specifically and what you're known for in a White Scars force, I feel like there's 2 bonuses. Firstly, it really makes them stand out in the whole cohesive force. It's one of the reasons why I like things like Aspect Warriors, because you get a splash of different kind of colour in the whole army. But secondly, your chat rate went from 1 to 47, look at that. But secondly, you're kind of renowned for doing black, so it gives you a chance to really do it well, like really go for it as well, which is quite nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
I'll do that then.
Yeah. Basically, chat, for reference, while we do this stupid 1-2 exercise, just so you're aware, right, is there's a thing on YouTube that shows me chat rate, and it's how fast people are posting in YouTube and how fast people are commenting. 1, bad, high number, good, okay, right? If the number is high, YouTube pushes the live content to other people that are on YouTube that aren't watching it. It helps the algorithm. It appeases the algorithm gods, right? If the chat rate is low, YouTube's like, this stream's dead, people are bored. Don't be bored, fuckers. It's the same as what you said last night, right? I'm just giving you information that I've come to learn. If the super chats and the gifted memberships are high, the stream gets pushed to more people, the live viewers goes up, more people come in and super chat and gift. If it's low, YouTube doesn't push the stream.
Also, White Scars shields, like Blade Guard Terminators, the normal tower shield or round shield. Because wheels.
What?
So a storm shield
Yeah.
on a Terminator and on and a storm shield on the Blade Guard.
Yeah, like
So I stick with the normal cross shield ones, like the Indomitus, because the shield's the same shape as the Indomitus Crusade symbol,
yeah.
right? Or do I get other shields that are big and round?
Historically, what were the White Scars based on?
Genghis Khan,
Yeah.
the Mongols.
So what do they use? Round or
round? Because horse mounted.
So I'd go round if you can. And I've written my bet in, you'll be able to find some beautiful 3D printed White Scars round shields that will just flat replace them.
There's a guy I follow on Instagram called Storm of Trigoris, who I'm pretty sure works for Games Workshop actually.
Oh really?
Yeah, he's got a beautiful White Scars army, and he used I forgot their name now. The things that you put cufflinks. He found some Oriental style cufflinks.
That's cool.
Cut the backs off, and that's the shield. They look banging.
I'm kind of into that, but I'm. If you look at the Space Wolves drawer at home in my house, which we'll be getting to in the future. By the way, one of my closest friends has just offered us like about fucking 20 million points of Space Wolves. So Space Wolves coming to the channel very soon. I found on, it might have been Pop Monkey or Pop Goes the Monkey, whatever it's called, that website, something like that. Round wolf shields that had like the runes around them and stuff like that. And they were like, it was just basically like cut the fucking, so the shield on the hand, you've got the flat bit, I just cut the shield hand off of the 3D printed shield and they fit perfectly.
Well, the Blade Guard come with the hand, and it's attached to a tiny small bit of plastic that then slots into the shield. So I could easily replace, that's why, because I can replace the shields very easily. I was on Etsy and I found some really nice spears. So I kind of want my Blade Guard to have spears.
Is the Terminator shields easier or harder? Or same?
Much harder.
Okay.
Because the current Terminator shields on the Assault Terminators are actually...
the whole arm, aren't they?
The whole arm.
Yeah, that's a bit more of a problem. But I'd say, at least for the Blade Guard, I'd say go round.
Yeah.
100%.
Or I do like the Keshik do on the Forger website. They don't have any shields at all.
Oh.
They just have the... what they're called? The spear sword. Majiggy. You know.
Like a glaive kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know what they're called. Anyway, you're a legend, thank you. Whoever that was. Who was that? Was that Staris was still talking about? Was that the last one?
Yeah, we're still talking about it.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you, Dan Skippy, for 5 gifted memberships. Thank you, Hungry Bert. Don't look at the Stormbolters on my Grey Knights, they ain't hitting shit.
They're looking that way, are they?
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Don't worry, I've seen people with eyes like that.
Yeah.
What's up?
It's Joe from War Games, and then obviously Pop Goes the Monkey is amazing. I've used Etsy just because it's just easier.
What did you say, Joe from War Games Live? What did you say that for?
Because
Oh, it's always on about those wolf shields. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, they're fucking cool. I'll find some
Space
images.
Wolves is an army I want to do, but I know we've got an army on the way.
Yeah, it's an army we're definitely going to do for ourselves. But it's so we are going to do a Space Wolves army for ourselves, heavily converted with lots more wolf bits, because I really want to go down the route of doing the Viking vibe. And one of the reasons why I've kind of gone more hard in towards Dark Angels is I like medieval, I like knights, I like Vikings, I like that kind of stuff, right? And Dark Angels kind of fit that vibe and that aesthetic now, and the Inner Circle Knights look like they're going to fit that vibe, and the new Deathwing Terminators fit that vibe, and all the hoods and robes, I love it. The Space Wolves, GW have gone typically towards the werewolfy kind of vibe for 40k Space Wolves, and I don't love that. I don't love Thunderwolf Cavalry, I don't love Wolfen, I don't love that stuff. I like Viking style, right? So that's the direction I'm going to go in. But it takes a lot more time and effort. And Lee's gone, well, I've got this whole army, would you like to use it? I'm like, actually, yeah, we can bring Space Wolves to the channel sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Which also means Joe's 1 million projects that he sets himself is now one less.
Yes.
Luton obviously coming in as well, being super controversial after what we've discussed, has said drilling is not essential, it's just mandatory.
Yeah. You know he's a big boy, he's got that tick.
He has got that tick, so have I. All right, so have I. Right. Do you drill guard las guns?
Thank you, Dreadnaughty, for the 1 gifted membership. Thank you, Nordos44 for 1 gifted membership. And here, okay, and now this is the question I was going to ask, right? Because I'm talking about what are people's thoughts on converting models from one chapter to run in another chapter?
Like what?
Right.
Give me a for instance.
For instance, as we've talked about it already loads, White Scars. What if I put, so the Khan is currently on foot.
Wrong. You shouldn't be.
Much to every White Scars player's
I
annoyance.
don't.
It fills them with a distinct level of rage.
Which it should. They're right to be raged.
And then Games Workshop double salted everyone by releasing a special White Scars box set, which came with a chaplain on a bike, 6 bikes, 2 ATVs, and the Khan on foot.
Yeah, the only one.
Yeah, the only
Off you go, lads.
Yeah.
I've got me bird.
I can't even join your units. So, right. So
he's like modern day management.
Yeah.
Off you go, lads. I'm just going to sit back here and do nothing.
So obviously, the Dark Angels book's just been released, right? And I was tempted to do the same thing that White Scars players have been doing it for years and running them as Ravenwing. And then I convert the Khan on a bike
In Samael.
and run him Samael. Because both characters are fundamentally the same in terms of lore. They're both bike riding Space Marines who lead a chapter or a faction within the chapter. They're both skilled riders. They're both competent swordsmen. They both fulfill the same role, but one isn't allowed to sit on a bike.
Are there any individual White Scars specific units that currently exist outside of the Khan on foot that you would want to use in your White Scars army?
No, because they don't have any of their own units.
So what you're saying is you could take all the units that White Scars currently use, bikes, speeders, etc.
Yeah.
You can put them in a detachment that actually makes them potentially usable.
Yeah.
And you have a data sheet that could represent the Khan better than he's currently represented.
Yeah.
So what's the problem?
People will be like, why are you running Dark Angels as White Scars?
Would they?
I don't know. That's the thing, because I was like, because then what I could do.
Who's bothered by this? If a person came to this is a genuine. Like I can instantly tell you that my issue is no problems at all. Go for it.
Because I was like, I could convert up a really cool White Scars version of Black Knight. For instance, right? Take a bunch of Outriders, give one a banner, give one a medic loadout, and one guy's got a massive kind of champion sword, just got plasma guns.
It's just a White Scars command squad.
Yeah.
So in chat, right? Again, I'm not going to 1 and 2 at this time because we've done that exercise already. My instant reaction is that sounds fucking cool. And what I think when I think about data sheets and I think about armies, there's some issues that I find, but on the whole, actually, do you know what? what they've given us is a sandbox, and we build what we want in that sandbox. Luton earlier said he's got Beyond the Fell-Handed, play it as an Ultramarine. Have that. Like, I don't see. Some people are going to get upset about this, but I want to see how I want to see how big a problem this is, or whether it's just a small minority. Would anybody out there, Joe comes to the table, let's imagine it's not Joe, because you're all soft on him anyway. Anyone else comes to the table with a White Scars army that's using Ravenwing detachment rules and Ravenwing data sheets. He's not using any specific White Scars characters. He's using Samael, but he's painted as a white. Who's got a problem with that? Yeah. I feel like no one's got a problem with that.
The other option is I have actually got Jagatai in this box.
The Primarch?
The Primarch.
Yeah. Run him as the Lion.
Run him as either the Lion or Samael. He's a Primarch. He jumps really far.
I would, do you know what I would do, genuinely, is I would kit, bash and convert using a Heresy jet bike, a Samael, that I would run as Jakati Khan on the bike, and then I would probably build the Primarch model and I'd run him as the Lion, and I go, you know what, fuck you, GW, for making White Scars trash for so long. I'm going to run them as Ravenwing, and here's my...
And then I could go on the Games Factory website and spend a load of Liam's money on Golden Keshig bikes and run those as Black Knights.
I'm hard on Joe.
Because I think like, because this came around basically after Beachhead. I kind of caught, despite doing terribly in terms of score, I had an incredible weekend. I had loads of fun. All my opponents are incredible. I only won one of my 5 games, but I kind of left and I was like, I took a list that was narrative. It had 0 competitive thing. I just went and played 5 incredible games. Had loads and loads of fun. But I was like, well, how do I make my Flesh Terrors good? So I kind of looked around at what armies were there and what was doing well, and I landed on Mike's Salamander's army, right? So I looked at the Salamander's detachment, and I was like, that's a really good detachment. But the only thing that makes the Salamander's detachment really sing is Adrax Agatone and Volkistan, because they give the units that get all the buffs better. Yeah. Like reroll to wounds and stuff that get the benefits of the stratagems. And I was like, if I don't take Seth, right, could I convert up a hench dude with a Thunderhammer and use his rules as Adrax Hagazone? Because there are literally millions and millions and millions of Space Marines, right? Why wouldn't there be a Flesh Terror who just really likes hammers and fire?
Well, why can't you just run the data sheet for Agatone as the Seth model and be like, on the data sheet it says hammer, but this is a giant fucking chainsaw that does the same damage. I don't see the problem. Demogorgon says not an issue as long as it fits, not like you're running a Librarian in a Templar's attachment. Strictly not in a Templar's attachment.
Yeah.
But hey, Luton is also basically offered to write all your lore for you. He'll need to flesh it out a bit, Joe.
I like it.
Yeah, he'll need to flesh it out a bit, but
because the thing that always struck me was back in the day is like, why were Cadians the only ones to get Pask? Was Pask the only good tank commander? If you read the Ghost books, General Grismond and his Narmenian tank company are the shit, right? Because see, Grismond did eventually get a 4-job model and it's very nice, but like, he never got rules. And if you made your own Armenian tank company in Armenian colours and stuff, and then you put Pask in it, you'd have to use the Pask, because in old rules you had to have the Pask model.
So you know what, mate? The biggest thing for me, if I'm going to be completely honest about it, the biggest thing for me with this whole thing, because I actually would like to encourage more of this. I would like to encourage more individual creativity, genuinely, right? Yeah. And I was literally talking to Joe about this today. I get really funny about how people might get funny about what I'm looking to do. So I was mucking around with a fun World Eaters list, and it includes Land Raiders, but I don't like the standard Land Raider. I literally, my favourite Land Raider in the world is a Spartan. Yeah. And I ended up spending half an hour on Google looking for size comparisons between a standard Land Raider and a Spartan, because I would rather run Spartans than standard Land Raiders. Actually, the size difference, not that bad. They're pretty similar. So I reckon I could get away with them. I can definitely get away with them on the channel, but if I want to ever take them to an event, it's about getting away with them. I want to encourage, however, more people to take the liberty of going, I don't like the Hellbrute kit, but I do like the Contemptor kit. As long as I put it on the same fucking base, why can't I use a World Eaters Contemptor or a Black Legion Contemptor as a Hellbrute? Now we don't get access to Contemptors anymore because Games Workshop said fuck you to everybody that bought Heresy models, despite the fact that you're Chaos and you should still have access to all the Heresy units because I have Terror. Anyway, Like I want
You've
to
changed your tune on this, by the way.
No, I haven't.
Because I was like, I wanted to run Leviathans as
Are they the same base?
as something else. No, I have to change the base size. But you're like, no, because Leviathans have got rules. And then he hit me.
Yeah, but we could. No, but
And he took the Leviathan and he squished it into my head.
Yeah,
And
hard.
that's why I have brain
But
damage.
at tournaments, I'm like, no, you can't. On the channel, you can still run Leviathans.
Yeah.
Because they have the data sheet for them. They do. And we're okay with Legends here. But I want to encourage more, like, I feel like more people should be less concerned about people that are making these, like, I've heard people go, if I use my guard regiment, the only thing I care about for this whole topic is a degree of consistency, right?
Yeah.
So if you were going to run your White Scars, if you're going to make a White Scars army, paint it as White Scars emblems, White Scar symbols, White Scars company colours, all that kind of stuff. But you wanted to use the Ravenwing rules because they're just flat better and they even make more narrative sense for White Scars than what's in the main Space Marine Codex. I'm like, go for it. But if you then had 20 Outriders all looking exactly the same, 0 differences, and you're like, well, actually these 10 are Outriders and these 10 are Black Knights, then I have a problem.
Yeah.
Right? That's my only issue. Someone said about how important is WYSIWYG. I feel like when 10th edition launched, for me personally, WYSIWYG kind of took a little bit of a backseat, only because lots of stuff changed. I didn't expect people to change all their shit overnight because it's expensive. But there comes a point, I feel like, where people are going, here's my unit of 10 Space Marines, right? And I don't know if this is even possible anymore. Here's my unit of 10 Space Marines. They've all got bolt guns, but that one's got a las cannon, and that one's got a heavy bolt. Like, no. That's like, so if you were like, here's my 10 Outriders, these 10 are Black Knights, and you could tell they're Black Knights because I've actually taken all the bolt guns off and put plasma guns on.
Yeah.
Sweet, go for it. But that's the only thing I actually really care about. So when I'm playing you, I know, yeah, it's a White Scar painted biker, but I know actually its data sheet is a Black Knight because it's got a plasma gun on the front.
Yeah.
Right, that's all I care about. Because when I'm playing against you, I don't want to have to be there and go, which one's the heavy bolter guy? Which one's the Black Knight? Which one's... I don't want to do that. I want to go, okay, I can tell very clearly that is the one that counts as Samael, but it's actually Jagati Khan.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's the only thing I care about.
Yeah.
And if you do that, I think we should be encouraging people to be more creative with their armies, because the stuff I've seen that people have done when they've been creative is some of the most incredible hobbying that exists. And I think you end up with... a lot of us whinge in 10th edition about the fact that there's less narrative, it's more competitive focused, a lot of it's about actions, people are taking weapon choices simply because I can still advance and do an action, and I hate that kind of stuff. And we whinge about it being less thematic. So let's not gatekeep. Let's not say it is Ravenwing detachment, so you shouldn't be using it. I'm not happy with that.
Yeah.
What's the problem? It's painted white.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, the attachments now aren't... Although the Raven one specifically makes units Ravenwing, gives them the Ravenwing keyword. But... like Games Workshop has said, it doesn't matter what the colour of your army is, because the Firestorm detachment is very much a Salamander's detachment, but it's not the Salamander's detachment. Does that make sense? Like the White Scars detachment isn't. You can't just only run White Scars in it. So I do hope going forward that with the codexes and supplements that come out for Space Marines, if you are a White Scars player, you are a Blood Angels player, you can use the different detachments, as long as they're not specific character locks, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, character locks is where it becomes a problem. So if you run Samael, for example, you can't...
I can't have the Jagati Khan. I can't have the Khan on the table. So if I run Samael,
yes,
I can't run...
Yeah, right.
I can't run Seth.
Yeah, so if you have Samael, which is the only restriction, but you can take... if you take Samael, you can't run the Black Templars attachment, because the Black Templars attachment specifically states you can't take any named characters from other chapters, okay?
Yeah.
But what you can do is you can take Samael and or any other character for that matter and use any of the generics detachments in the main Space Marine Codex. So I feel like, to some extent, in 10th edition at least, GW have kind of tried to lift some of this restriction.
Yeah.
This was a major frustration of mine back in 9th edition and 8th edition for that matter, when my Eldar was all painted Simhan, so I was stuck with shit Simhan rules, and they were shit rules. That really annoyed me. I didn't want to run Simhan rules. Like in 9th edition specifically, Ulthway rules were just flat better, and the Simon rules didn't fit for my particular narrative. Games Workshop have kind of lifted a lot of that restriction, and so now it's kind of on the community to also lift some of that gatekeeping and go, you know what, your White Scars army is fucking cool because it's actually all bikes and speeders. It makes narrative sense for White Scars. I know you're using Ravenwing rules. I know he's actually Samael, but narratively this is fucking cool.
Yeah.
So let's play some games of Warhammer. But what's interesting is it also brings me on to the next part of the topic, which is about, do you think there should be a standard? And I'm going to come away from painting, right? Only because there kind of already is a painting standard, GW's Battle Ready, right? And even then, we don't put unpainted on the channel simply because I'm trying to showcase a product and I'm trying to have a relatively high production value. There's this weird thing in the world where, oh, that's not painted, you can't come to the tournament. But Games Workshop literally have a rule in place that says if you're not painted, you just don't get the 10 points for being painted.
So this came up on the weekend, actually.
Oh, did it?
Right. So one of my opponents, their army was, some models were painted, some weren't painted, some models were painted but not based, some models had basing but no paint on the models. And he won points ahead. Like whether he got the 10 points or not, he still won. I was like, technically, you don't get the point.
For painted?
For painted.
For what they
And
call
he was
battle
like,
ready.
what? I've got 10 points painted every time. I was like, yes, but your army is not battle ready. Obviously, Adam, who runs the event, can be quite lax on these things. Like, so he doesn't enforce these.
I would call it more chilled than lax.
Yeah, not that. Yeah,
It's
I
a
don't want him to sound incompetent. He is quite forgiving. Like,
yes,
it's a big event.
You're here to have fun.
You're here to have fun. And I was like, you've won. I don't really care whether you get the 10 points or not. But as you should be aware, some of your opponents might enforce this. So, like, I'm not going to enforce it. But do not be upset if a person in 2 games' time goes, you don't get 10 points.
Yeah.
Because your army's not this.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's cool. So, but it is one of those weird things where for 40k tournaments, if you're going to have that rule in place, I do feel like you should enforce it, but I don't expect my opponents to have painted armies, if that makes sense. Because I think the competitive standard in the UK now has got to the point where people just want to play and win the numbers game. They don't care what army they have. They don't care what the models are or represent. They just want to win.
Do you think the 10-point penalty is enough to deter people from turning up with unpainted?
No, because some armies win with such ease that some armies are so overpowered that they don't even need the 10. Like an Eldar player 3 months ago could win, just get a flat 90 and not even need to be painted. And their opponent is not going to get near 90 points for that 10 points to make a difference.
So do you think there is a point that would make a difference?
I think if you made it 20 points.
Okay.
So if you went 40, 40, 20.
So because I'm in a place where I'm like, do you know what? If like I actually don't care if an opponent turns up with unpainted. There's people in the chat that Starius, I'm sure he won't mind me saying because he's quite open about this in Discord, hates fucking painting, doesn't have any interest in painting at all. Really not a fan of it, and he's quite happy to play with grey. I have zero problem playing against grey. I genuinely don't have a problem playing against grey at all. Yeah. Honestly, I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. But if I played against grey, I would be like, if I can see a person who's actually made an effort, then I'd be like, do you know what? I'm going to give you the 10 because I don't want to be a dick. But if you're flat playing with grey, I'm like, it's cool. I'll play you. I have no problems. But you're not getting the 10. Yeah. But you're right. Certain people, certain players specifically, could not care about those 10 points. And I just wondered if you thought that was 20 is interesting.
And it also depends on like how people play the game. So, for instance, Paulie from Real Space Raiders, he's the Sky Serpent. His only army is Drakari. His Drakari army is stunning, kind of thing. And if he's played that army, if you've only played one army forever and no other armies, and you go to an event, I would kind of expect you to have a fully painted army because you'd have enough in your belongings if you played for 15 years that you could field a fully painted army, right? But then, like, if you've got someone who literally goes, "This is a new meta, I'm changing to it because I just want to win." Like I only derive fun from winning. I'm not really. I have no interest in the narrative. I have no interest in the models. I just like rolling dice and winning. So I think it might almost be that like we need to change our perspective on how we look at events in general. So you might go, this is a playing the game tournament,
Okay.
right? And then you go, this is a narrative story tournament. And then you could have the third one, which is this is the all-encompassing tournament, kind of like your like No Retreat kind of thing. Because No Retreat, I kind of find that looks at like the hobby as a whole. It's not just gaming, it's about modelling, it's about lore, it's about having a fully painted nice army kind of thing. Like they take every aspect of the hobby and going to go into one thing. So I think like maybe that's like going forward, we will have to segregate not the people, but the events.
Do you think? Yeah, it's interesting because I still see event packs. This is a genuinely interesting topic for me because I struggle with it a little bit because I wouldn't. My personal preference is I wouldn't want to take an army to an event ever that isn't painted to a reasonable standard.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be Golden Demon winning, obviously. That's my personal preference. It's my personal the requirement I set on myself if I'm going to go to an event. I also feel like because of who we are on the channel, there's like a degree of an expectation at least. But I do see tournament packs that still specifically state armies must be fully painted, right? I've also been to tournaments where the tournament pack states must be fully painted and they haven't enforced the 10-point difference. Because I would assume, if I'm going to a tournament that states armies must be fully painted, I'm going to assume that me and my opponent are starting off on 10-10, right?
Yeah.
No matter what,
Yeah.
okay? Which also has that added lovely bonus and no one ever be able to score 0 strictly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've also been to tournaments where they've said, must be fully painted, so I assume 10-10. I've come up against an opponent where it's not painted, it just isn't. Like, it's bare minimum, doesn't even hit the battle ready standard as per GW's description, and no one's enforced the points. And I really don't know where I stand on it, because I guess, honestly, I don't care about playing against people that don't have painted armies. Not something I would do personally, but I don't care about that. But I'm just going to say to you, hey, just so you know, I'm not giving you the 10 points for painted because you're not painted.
I've been down to some of the enjoyment events run by Adam, like the RTTs, and someone's gone and been like, I've got an entire new army. It's all grey plastic. And he has gone, you can play. The tournament pack says your army must be battle ready, so you're just not getting the 10. Like, you can go and play, it's not a problem. If you want to practice because you know that you're going to a much larger event later on down the line, which your army will have to be painted for. Like, it doesn't have to be painted now, but you just need to make sure that your opponents know that you're not getting the 10. And he goes, if that means that you lose the game, it means you lose the game. Kind of thing.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would rather have more players than kind of gatekeep. It's kind of where I sit with it at least.
I've always been in the camp of like, I don't want to come across as a terrible person now, where if I go to a tournament and I come against someone who's got like a half painted army, they've not really tried.
But maybe they have tried, Joe.
Or like
your try and my try are two different levels.
I know, it's just one of those weird ones where I've gone like, I've put the effort, I've put my time in. Okay, before I started working here, when it was my job to paint models, right? This is probably a better example, right? I've taken my weekends off. I've not spent time with my family in the evenings to make sure I have fit the minimum requirements of this tournament. I have my army is painted and based, and I have my rules with me, because that's what it says I have to bring. And my opponent turns up, they don't have the rules, they don't have a fully painted army, and they expect to get the same level of points as I do. And I'm like, but you've not done the minimum requirements. And I'm kind of like,
Okay.
I deserve those 10 points. You don't.
Oh,
deserve
but that's why I'm okay with there
Yeah.
being a point system involved.
Yeah.
Because it very much rewards the people that have put the effort in and done the hobby, and it very much says to those that don't want to put that effort in, you don't have to, but you're not getting the points. And I feel like often a lot of this is sort of semi-solved by players having, perhaps courage isn't the right word, but I wish they felt more empowered to turn around to someone and be like, I'm sorry, mate, I don't agree that hits the requirement.
Yeah.
So, and if there's an argument, then it's a get a TO job.
Because a lot of people just expect to get the 10 points whether it's done or not.
It's like I feel like there's this awkward, unwritten kind of like agreement. We just give each other 10 points because that's what everyone does. And I feel like players, arguably, if players are more kind of empowered to turn around and say, I'm not comfortable that you've reached those requirements. And I don't want people being pedantic. I don't want people going, you haven't got the right shoulder pad marking. I don't care about that shit. It's about whether you've made an effort to paint. What we do have to be cognizant of, and I mean this genuinely as well, we have to be cognizant of the fact that like my effort to paint a model is different to your effort to paint a model, which is different to Paddy's effort to paint a model. So I want to also be careful that I don't look at someone's army and go, you've not put any effort in there, and that person goes, I've actually really fucking tried.
Yeah.
We have to be careful there. We have to be very careful.
Oh
there,
yeah,
I
like
think.
I do understand that there are people that literally cannot paint, and sometimes and can't afford to pay someone to do it for them.
Yeah.
Right? But spray paints exist. Rattle cans. Like, if you're going to go to, like, I find like I played against a guy who literally had a fully unpainted Tau army that wasn't this weekend. I was like, could spray paint it red, blue, white,
Yeah.
paint it base green. Kind of like, you've done something.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone says you could tell if someone tried even if they may not look perfect. I don't know. Yeah, I think often that's probably the case. I think I would agree with you 95% of the time there. What I also think is, and I've had this experience personally, where I've taken an army to an event. You know, I've taken a channel army to an event that Joe's painted, and I've come home from that event and I've been like, I want to paint my own army because I'm just inspired by other people. Yeah. And I feel like if we just keep those people out of tournament, no, you can't come to the tournament because you haven't used any paint. I don't know. I'm really torn on this one. This is part of the wider question. Like, should we, like, Warhammer themselves, Games Workshop themselves, has made big things over the course of the last 5 years plus about Warhammer is for everyone, right? And they make this big thing about inclusivity. They've made this big thing in 10th edition about accessibility. So we're preaching and we're practicing major inclusivity, major accessibility. And then as a community, a lot of people can go, apart from, as long as you've got a well-painted army and you've worked really hard, based it, and you've got, like...
And you've enjoyed your battles.
Yeah, so, exactly. So it comes right back to the start of the stream. So, like, if we're actually going to try and make... Look, we're on the precipice, potentially, of this universe. We have this current, like, nice, cozy, niche little corner of the internet that we all live in, where we've got 280 people watching. Tonight we'll have 300-400 people watching. This nice little cozy corner, and I recognise most of the names that turn up in chat, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we're on the precipice of that changing.
Well, the next 2 to 3 years.
With the Amazon TV deal, there is the potential that this hobby absolutely fucking erupts.
Well, we're like, as a hobby, we will be front and center on the world stage.
Yes.
Realistically, because like for instance, the new Argyle film. The new Argyle film hasn't been received greatly, but that whole film, despite being filled with loads of incredible famous actors, that whole film was sold off the back of Henry Cavill just being in it. Apparently, he's only in it for 10 minutes, right? That's like Transformers literally being sold off the back of Megan Fox. You know,
That's why I watched it.
so like the reason that the 40k show is already being advertised by the Times, by BBC News, by Sky, is that Henry Cavill is doing something with Warhammer.
Yeah.
And more people are going, what is Warhammer? And we kind of need to kind of get all of our ducks in a row for when we have this massive influx of people going, what is this?
Well, this is where I'm going with it, right? So we're on the precipice of this becoming potentially globally aware. People becoming globally aware of it. Look at Marvel, all these franchises that it became huge really, really quickly. The world of the nerd is now, right? It's a time. It's currently we're in the time of the geek. It's more acceptable socially. It's more cool than it's ever been before, if you can call it that, right? So we really need to be very careful. I feel like as a community about the standards that we even unspeakably impose on people.
Yeah.
So if we are going, you must draw your barrels, you must have a painted army, you must have at least shaded and edge highlighted once, like do you? Because if the world is going to look at us and look at this hobby and arguably want to get involved, I want more people involved in the hobby. I want more people watching my content on YouTube because it helps my business, but I want more potential opponents. I want to meet more amazing people. The channel itself and the hobby and the tournaments I've gone to have been one of the things that has allowed me to meet some of the most amazing people that I've ever come across.
Yeah.
Right? People that I would have never met before through YouTube, through the channel, through tournaments, through Warhammer. Right? The number of potential people I could meet is arguably going to go up exponentially.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful that we don't gatekeep, I think. And I think we need to. Do we set a standard and go, hey, Warhammer's for everyone, but as long as you hit all these boxes. Because at that point, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think we need to have a bit of introspective within the hobby as a whole community, and think about what are the standards that we must have, really. Like some of the standards that we do currently have, do we get rid of them entirely, or we just tighten them up a bit to be a bit more I think
accepting. The perfect world for me is that people are it's perfectly acceptable for an individual to have their own personal standard, right? That's fine. If your own personal standard is, I must have drilled barrels, I must have fully based armies with leaves and shit, I must have at least 25 different colours of paint, including shades and highlights and edge highlights and fine edge highlights. If that's your personal standard, that's perfectly fine.
That's like my example with specifically doing the white scars. So I was at a tournament this weekend. I have an army that I love, and I've painted to a good tabletop standard, in my opinion. I'm happy to take it around and be like, look at my models, look how much I love them. But at the event, I was walking around, and there were some unpainted armies, there were some half-painted armies, there were some armies the same level as mine, and there were some phenomenally beautiful armies. And I set myself a goal to get to there, but I do not expect everyone at the tournament to be at that level.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
It's a world we live in where, and it's not just in Warhammer, this is applied to many different aspects of life, unfortunately. It's okay to have your own standard, it's okay to have your own belief system, it's okay to have your own views. It's not necessarily okay to try and force that standard or those views on other people. You could even tell people what your standard is, but you can't necessarily hold them to your standard. And there are certain things in life where, of course, you can hold people to a standard. That's perfectly fine. But I think we need to just make sure we're a little bit careful. The drill barrel conversation is interesting. It's interesting that Games Workshop decided to put that conversation
your models or die.
It's interesting that Games Workshop put that conversation on the website, because I think they did it because it would spark traffic and interest and debate. But I think that ultimately we need to decide what's actually important to us and what isn't. I think some things are very important and worth fighting for, and actually worth expressing your discomfort with another person's potential point of view, and some things aren't worth that fight. And when it comes to people playing with plastic toy soldiers, I'd argue a lot of it isn't worth the fight. And you're more than welcome to have your own standard. You just don't necessarily need to hold everybody to that standard and belittle the ones that don't make your standard. We've got more in chat. I just think it's an interesting topic, and I'm happy to be proven wrong as well. If you guys have got opinions and we don't get to them because you haven't put them on colourful postcards or I don't catch it on the stream quick enough, put comments on the video after the fact. I'm trying to improve that engagement anyway. I'm open to listen. I'm always open to the conversation. 100%, I'm always open to the conversation.
You can answer Sarah's question whilst I go for a wander.
Oh my God, are you going to the toilet already? You normally at least wait till we're on the hour. I'm not sure people need to be overly careful. If you're in a community, you can set the benchmark. There's no need to be overly apologetic to newcomers. No, well, absolutely. But we're in a world, Luton, where I do think that I want to open the doors to more people and accept more people into the hobby and the community in general. And I feel like there is a risk of scaring people off who would want to be involved if we set those standards a little bit too high, Where are we? It's not Staris's question. He's well back here, isn't he? So he did Hungry Birds last time. Dreadnoughty, thank you for the gifted membership. Nordas, 44, thank you for the gifted membership. Evan, thank you for the gifted membership. 3 plus 5, 10, 15, so 18, 19 new members today, chat. !gift if you want to be one of those incredible gifters and get more people into the community. If you're a grey name, you can !member, !snipe me, and then potentially someone might be able to be kind enough to gift you membership, or you could become a member all by yourself and come and join us in the Great Hall, you beautiful humans. Gaz then says, thanks for the 2, Gaz, how WYSIWYG do you need to be? It's a tough one, if I'm honest with you. WYSIWYG is an interesting argument, right? It's another interesting standard, I think, because some people will 3D print, and as long as they go, everything here is heavy bolters, and they all look the same, so I know that thing that looks like this is a heavy bolter, cool, okay, I'm kind of okay with that, because consistency. Consistency is more important to me necessarily than exact WYSIWYG, if I'm honest with you. So I don't mind people using counts as stuff as long as it's consistent throughout the army. The question from Gaz was, because it wasn't Osiris, she'd missed a couple already. I've done all the members so far. The question from Gaz was, how WYSIWYG do you need to be? And I'm like, I feel like if you've gone, I'm going to custom build things, or I'm going to kit bash, or I'm going to print things and use different things, I'm going to tell you that this black thing here, Joe, is a heavy bolter. As long as every single thing that looks like that's a heavy bolter, that's consistent, I'm cool.
Yeah, it's like, so for instance, the Master of Possession has a fixed loadout.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have, like he has a staff, and that's it. So you can take any model with a staff. I also wouldn't be upset if someone goes, I've made a Master of Possession, but he's got a big axe. Oh, but cool, because there's nothing else he can take, for instance.
Yep, agree.
Like the argument with the new Terminator Captain.
Yep.
Right, he has two loadout options. He has Power Sword and Stormbolter, Power Fist, Stormbolter. Right, so if you give him a Thunderhammer Storm Shield, you go, well, Thunderhammer is equivalent to a Power Fist because they're both strength 8. The Storm Shield, he already has a 4+ invulnerable save, so it's just a thing that's there. Right? It just exists.
Well, Storm Shield just gives him an extra wound, doesn't it?
Normally, it would give him an extra wound, but in that example, you go, he's got a Storm Shield. It doesn't give him the extra wound because you can't take it, and he's probably got a bolt gun somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't have to use the bolt gun. It's a weird one. I think it becomes more complicated on units that can have lots of things.
I only care about knowing what is what.
Yeah.
That's all I care about.
Yeah.
If I know what is what, and I would go as far as to say, even if you've gone as far as to go, right, the guys with the red shoulder pads have got the melter guns, and the guys, at least I can see. I'm less keen on that, but at least I can differentiate.
I think if they've got bolt guns and you're claiming them all as having lance cannons, I think that becomes a very different scenario. Like if they all had like a big bulky gun, you can't go, one's a metal gun, one's a plasma gun, one's a
That's
thing.
my issue. Exactly. Consistency. 100%. That's my point. Consistency is key. And this is what we were talking about earlier as well. Like I feel like Space Marine players seem to be held to account about WYSIWYG more than other armies.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people go, well, this is a Dark Lance, that's a Disintegrator. If you told me, I couldn't tell you right now, genuinely, we've got them out there, I couldn't tell you what's a Disintegrator, what's a Dark Lance. I have no idea.
It's like AdMech. They've got so many special weapons that you can have in a Vanguard or unit, but like I have no idea which one's which.
Yeah.
I know one's a plasma gun because it's got coils.
So if you say to me, this guy's got the Transonic Arquebus and he's on the right base size, the base size I am a bit more keen on, to be honest with you. If there's a couple of mil difference, if you've taken a character that historically is on a 25 mil base, right, and you've put them on a 28.5 mil base, or even if you put them on a 32 mil base, I don't give a fuck. I'm okay with that. I don't care. If you should be on an oval Transonic Arquebus base and you've got them on a 25 mil, it's a bit different in size.
Yeah.
It's like big difference in size, right? On the whole, though, if there's a couple mil difference, I don't. Oh, this is the other thing that gets me as well. Oh, you've put him on a 32 mil base and he should be on a 28 mil base. You've got a huge tactical advantage. I mean, if 2 mil is big for you, you're poor misses.
It's like your Heresy bikes for the Raven Wing. They come on a 90 mil base, a 90 mil oval, but you got them a 90 mil round. So you're actually at a disadvantage because your base is slightly wider than it should be. But it's still vaguely the same size.
It's there and thereabouts, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if it's a tournament, I do understand people being a little bit more fussy about it. But
it's like, I think it becomes more prevalent for not so much the unit, but the characters.
But then even then, Joe, right? Again, if it's a couple of mil in difference, right? We're talking about a game that requires you to put a tape measure, right, to measure in inches the difference, whilst fussing about millimeters on a base size for a tape measure that I'm hovering above models as my hands move.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
People can be quite finicky. Someone was like, "Oh, you're not touching bases," and I was like, "They're all guys who are in angry poses with their arms up. I literally can't force them to all be base to base." And he's like, but they're not in base to base. And I was like,
But Boris says, I found the latest play on video jarring. They bought the obviously basic tournament paint job Black Templar army and it really took me out of me. I do genuinely personally think, right, don't shoot me down here, I love the guys that play on, and I haven't seen the video, but I do personally think if you're going to make content around this, there is, I think, a standard that should be expected.
I kind of feel like, obviously we can't all be Tabletop Tactics standard.
No.
Because they've got professional painters.
Well, they've got Fletch, who's inhuman.
Yeah, man is a painting wizard. But like if you're a reasonably sized creator team, then I think you should have fully painted nice army. Not like nice, but it says like they must be painted to a standard where it looks right. Like
I just think we're showcasing it. We should showcase it.
Yeah, I think we want if you're on the internet and you're going out to thousands of people, you need to be an advert for the hobby as a whole.
Yeah.
Like you want, when someone watches your channel and they watch you play the game, they should be going like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like if there's a teenage lad who's never found Warhammer before, he looks at our channel and he goes, those guys are having fun, they're having a laugh, that table looks cool, the armies look cool, I want to be part of that. Whereas if they go, there's a bunch of people that are playing on their kitchen with unpainted terrain, with unpainted armies, they're like, it's not.
Luton. If we're talking about models ready for games and for tournaments, what about terrain? I've seen videos of some tournament terrain that looks like cardboard spray grey acceptable. Don't get Joe started on terrain, Luton. Have you seen the tables that we put out Tuesdays and Thursdays? I guess it depends on what you're trying to showcase. If you're literally just trying to showcase competitive 40k, you can play with no terrain and just literally L shapes of wood, and that's fine.
Yeah, I think
that's not what we do.
It depends on if we were going to go, we're going to show off what to expect at this event going forward. The event organizer has given us the terrain to advertise. I think if it's like a sponsored thing, like this is a sponsor from LVO, here's the LVO terrain, this is what to expect when you get there, these are the terrain layouts, and we'll show it. But personally, I want the tables to look as good as possible. Yeah. If I could live in a world where all of our boards were perfectly fixed, beautiful, display tables like you get at Warhammer World, I'd do that if I could.
Yeah.
But we can't fit them through the door.
Lots of people with exclamation mark gift, exclamation mark member. No new members. Come on, people. Sort it out. Grim Witchburn, thank you for the 5. Off topic, but cheers for Joe for mentioning the Beckwin books a few times. Just finished the first one. I think it would be an excellent 40k show.
As I keep saying.
As you keep saying.
It's the best one out there for it, outside of Old World. But I hope once you've listened to those, you go back and listen to the Eisenhorn series and the Raveler ones, because then a lot more stuff makes sense. But you don't. The great thing about the Beckwin books is you don't need to know the other books.
Tuesday's Jungle Bob was very nice. Curious as to who built it, Joe, on Thursday.
I did it on Thursday before I left.
Yeah. Joe makes. I don't try and make table. If I can get away with not making the table, I don't do it. And then it's not because it's beneath me. It's not because I can't be bothered. It's just because Joe just flat makes better tables than I do. Joe just makes better tables.
I feel sorry because Carl and Brom and Eddie, they come in and oh, do you want me to do it? I'm no, don't touch it. I'll break your fucking fingers, right? He's like, I'll put some rocks down. No, because I'm so OCD about it. I'm like, you'll put the rocks down wrong.
Yeah.
And it won't be right, and I'll have to change it. That barrel is in the wrong place.
Yeah.
It doesn't make narrative sense. Why would that gun emplacement be there? And then I stare at them, and when they leave the room, I change it. Right? It's like when you let your kids decorate the Christmas tree, and then when they go to bed, you take it all down, start again. And they're like, "Oh, the Christmas tree looks really good in the morning." I'm like, "Yeah, you did that."
I like to wait till he's finished the table and move something and see if he notices. Inevitably, by the time we go live, it's almost always been moved back.
Yep. I hate it when Brom comes in. The first thing he does is move his piece, and he's always like, "It's that terrain's in the wrong place for me because I need to put my army there." I'm like, "Fucking play around it." Right? You can't move a building.
Darius, thank you for the 20. I think Joe's desire to run what he wants points to an issue of WYSIWYG and how people demand everything to be correct. I had an issue with my Iron Hands librarian with an axe because one person complained it wasn't a force staff. That person should probably be slapped, Darius. Again, back to what you said. Librarians now can only take one option. So it doesn't matter what he's got in his hand.
Yeah, literally.
He's only got one option.
Back in 7th edition, it made sense because they could take an axe, a sword,
a staff,
And an axe, a sword, a staff all had different weapon profiles.
Yeah.
But now they can only take one thing. It makes less sense. It's like people that it's like when people run Alfarius or they run Comrade Kurz as Abaddon. I don't see a problem in that because there's only one Abaddon. So like you said, like running Jagatai Khan as the lion.
There's only one lion.
Yeah, they've both got a sword.
Well, I mean, even
Yeah.
that far, yeah. But who cares if he hasn't got a sword? Who cares if the Jagatai Khan model had an axe?
I would like if someone was like, "I've got Purge Rabba, I'm running with Abaddon in my Iron Warriors army." I'm like, "Cool, yeah,
Because he's only got one loadout.
yeah."
Because what I wouldn't, the reason why that's kind of important as well is because if you've only got one loadout, it's not like you're going to table 1 and saying, oh, he's got the sword option, and you're going to table 2 and looking at him and going, oh, he's got the axe option. Not that you could do that anyway because you have to submit your list.
Yeah.
But it's about the consistency. So the consistency there is fine. He's Abaddon. He's a fucking big model. He's on the right size base.
Yeah.
He looks like a big, powerful creature. I'm using Abaddon's data sheet to represent my character.
Yeah.
Fine, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it. I love your narrative. Go for it. Crazy cool. So, by the way, Darius, thank you so much for the 20. You're a legend. I love you. Crazy kill switch. Thank you for the 2. My grots on converted squigs army everyone loves, and so they should. Like I love that. I've seen some incredible Matt Clare music. I haven't seen him in stream for a while. He used to turn up to Factorum with armies of like he had full crew armies before they were cool.
Yeah, on dragons.
Yeah.
And
he used them as the Tau flyers, and they're
Yeah.
fucking cool as shit. I love that kind of stuff. More of that, please, people. Borns, thank you for the 10. Our local TO specifically states everyone gets the 10 points of painted regardless of actual army state to remove a potential barrier for people showing up who may be new. That's interesting. But if that's the expectation before anyone gets to the event, at least everyone's aware of it.
yes,
And everyone's going to that event singing off the same song sheet.
yeah,
That's important.
yes, that is important, and that is why we need to segregate the events, right? Or we make it perfectly clear in advance what the intended result is.
Yeah.
Of this is, right? Like,
You had to swallow it down there, Chad. Did you watch it?
yeah. So
That's 10
I
gifted
had to
members.
remember exactly
10
what
members at least.
That's what I had to remember. What I said earlier is that like you have here is a tournament for playing and winning. Here is a tournament for beautiful armies. Here is a tournament for just people having fun and being silly. Like as long as you know in advance. Like I've got a bolt action event in 2 weeks' time, right? And it's aimed at just getting people to play. There's bolt action. There's no prizes for winning. So all the prize support that's coming from Warlord, everyone gets one raffle ticket, and they're just gonna, and there's enough for everyone.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
And it's everyone and basically they're going, you're playing 3 games, have fun. Obviously submit your list in advance so we can make sure it's legal, because obviously there are lots of theatre selectors and ways of building your army in advance. You can't run a standard combined arms attachment, as it were. You have to take a narrative list. They don't care if it's painted, but you have to bring a narrative list. And it's just about having fun.
Hazard says Joe is calling for segregation. That would be a clickbait title. Yeah. Chaotic Failure, thank you. Oh, by the way, Boards, thank you for the 10 US. You're a legend. Chaotic Failure, thank you for the 10. I think if you up the painting penalty, that might encourage more people to just do the bare minimum. A la spray black, 1 red shoulder pad, 1 blue shoulder pad, done. But it depends on who we're encouraging at that point, though, Ben, right? Because if we're encouraging the people that are currently not painted at all, at least there's some painted on there, I guess. Yeah. It's a really tough one. I fully understand the people that love this hobby who want to go into it. I want to say this, and I want to be very clear about this. I fully understand the people that love this hobby who want to walk into a tournament hall, see 20 beautifully built tables, and see 40 nicely painted. And when I say nicely painted, I don't mean siege standard but nicely painted armies. I fully understand those peoples and their wants. I get it. I do understand. And I do understand those people that go, well, I don't understand why you would be in this hobby if you don't want to paint your army. I do understand, but we also have to be conscious of the fact that everybody's hobby is different. Everybody's passions and things that they enjoy doing is different.
Yeah, and because everyone's different, when I run events here, I will check your army at the door, and if it's not good enough, I'll put you in a catapult, launch you across the street.
but it's just like, I don't know if I would change the 10 points to 20 points, or whether I'd get rid of it, or what I would do, and whether I still don't know this to this day. Where the hobby house events
What
are
army
gonna,
am I taking?
I don't know if some hobby house events are going to say it's a bolt action. If some hobby house events are going to say it must be painted, if some are going to say you cannot be painted, I feel like what I would want to do is say most events you need to be painted, but we'll have boot camp weekends and training weekends where people that are getting into the hobby who might not have had the time to paint, because I'm also conscious it's a big time in, like, I don't know what we're going to do yet, but I think it's an interesting discussion because before 9th edition, maybe 8th edition, it never existed.
No.
It was just, if I'm going to a tournament, my army has to be painted.
It was,
and people were just kind of okay with that.
And at the time, it was 3 colours minimum. They did not specify how much colour. There were people literally turning up with a spray painted black army with a red dot and a green dot on the shoulder pad.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah, less than one of those people.
But no, what am I taking? I'm taking currently either Australians or Long Range Desert Group. I emailed my list through to the guy who's running the event. I said, this is the arm I'm going to take because this is the models I've got painted. I have got a Long Range Desert Group I'm painting, but I'm not sure I'll get it done in time. And he was like, you don't have to get it painted to bring it. I was like, I want to get it painted. And he was like, well, send me both army lists. And if you do get it painted in time, just bring that on.
You're not playing Germans?
No.
No?
No, that's Bob's army.
There's a good video about that out there on YouTube. Christios, thank you for the 10. For me, it all depends on size of tournament. Yeah. I don't have an issue with an unpainted armies on an RTT or even some small GTs, but for big GTs and major tournaments, having painted armies advertises the game. interesting. I never thought about separating this.
So, for instance, it happened this weekend. Beachhead is massive in the sense that it has a 40k tournament, an AOS tournament, Kill Team, Bolt Action, Star Wars Legion, Heresy, and then a whole bunch of other games on top right. And next, with that going on, in the hall next to it, there was loads of there's like a convention hall with like stalls selling stuff or doing displays or selling models. It was like, so there's like a whole thing going on. So people could literally walk in. Think of like Comic-Con, but for old people. And because there's lots of reenactment stuff going on there. But you go into people with their families, with their kids, were literally coming in and walking around the hall. And they're walking around the tournament hall, looking at the tables. And people are
smelling
I love that.
The pungent men.
I love that. It's great. There's a reason why I'm not wearing my hoodie because of that.
I mean, we should probably be imposing shower standards before painting standards, Joe.
Yeah,
Carry on.
Basically, the reason I'm not wearing my hoodie is that I'd have a toiletries bag when I go to the tournaments, which has got roll-on, spray stuff, hand sanitizer, all that, and my beard oil leaked.
All over your hoodie?
On my hoodie, so it's in the wash now.
Okay.
A hot wash gets out beard oil, so it's nice. It's clean. It's just drying. I didn't want to sit here all damp, essentially.
No, you're normally moist.
Yeah.
Not damp.
So yeah, when the people go in and walk around these events, we as a community are advertising the hobby.
We are.
These people that walk in are potentially your next opponent.
Yeah.
Right? You have to look at the people that walk through these doors as someone as you could be stood across the table from next time. And they're walking around, all these things are going great. Like the painting standard for Beachhead was the highest I've ever seen it this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's good.
And I was walking around.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure, minus 10 points if I can smell you from the next table.
Lewis says like an extra 10 points if he's painted really well. And my first game was versus my mate Dan, and he was running my old Drakari army. And I was like, I get your 10 points because I painted your army.
The thing is, the problem with that is, Luton, is painted really well is often quite a subjective thing.
The thing is, though, the thing that ITC has currently, but it doesn't push, which it should, is the painting track.
The hobby track, yeah.
The hobby track. So when you submit scores, your opponent submits a hobby score as well. Like, you have a nicely painted army, or you have a terrible painted army, kind of thing. Like, so I feel like that's something like that that would be good. So it would incentivize people to paint their models more because there is an additional score on it and you can score things from it. But people that don't care about that don't have to participate in that.
Yeah. You are right, though. I do think that major events are an advertisement. I don't know. It's interesting. It's almost like bringing this 10 points in has caused more problems than it's potentially solved from GW, is where I'm kind of going with this at the moment. And I don't, I don't know. It's a really tough one to actually give you. I flip flop between I think they should be painted or actually we need to be more accessible and maybe there's. I really don't know where I sit on this one, and I don't absolutely don't want to be preaching, but like this should be the standard that because everyone's different. Like one of the things that makes humans creatures in general beautiful is the fact that everybody is different. And I often think it's very unfair to take certain standards and say this is what you should be striving to achieve because for some people. Like, imagine if, like, Waller, my mate, was like, this is the standard that I paint to, everyone should be the same standard. I'm never achieving that in my life. So, I mean, that's an extreme example, but you can see what I'm saying, right? Starius, thank you for the 5. Make the hobbyists be better at strategy if they force us to paint. You don't want the hobbyists better at strategy, Starius. You already lose enough games. So you don't want them better at strategy, because then you would have an unpainted army and you'd be losing. Christios, thank you for the 5. If a tournament has minimum standards in painting, we should have minimum standards on terrain. If the TO has unpainted terrain, if the TO has unpainted MDF, unpainted armies is okay. Again, I think that depends on the goal of the event, perhaps, like Joe was saying earlier. I remember one of the first big LGTs when people rocked up and there was massive L-shaped like polystyrene that hadn't been painted. It was just polystyrene, right? And people were very upset about that.
Yeah.
But you can guarantee some people's armies weren't up to a standard as well.
But
saying that, sorry to jump in, when you go to a tournament, 99 times out of 100, you're buying a ticket. So I feel like if you're paying to take part in an event, I agree that there should be perhaps a higher standard standard expected in terrain than perhaps in the armies, because you're literally paying to go for it. Yeah. So if you pay to go to an event, especially if you pay a premium ticket price, and you then turn up unpainted terrain, I'd be like, hang on a minute.
Yeah, we've kind of reached a minimum expected standard now, I think, for tournaments in general. Like, I'd say for tournaments of 10 tables plus, right? Anything under 10 tables, I would assume is a new TO starting out, not for profit, like tends to be whatever terrain they can get hold of.
Which is fine.
Like, I don't have, like, if they go, this is my first tournament, I've bought what I can, please don't expect much. But if you're going to a tournament and you're paying 50, 60 quid a ticket, you're expecting a minimum of a mouse mat style gaming mat, and you are expecting either pre-painted or painted after laser cut terrain. Really, that's what the standard is. You've got the standard, the VT terrain you've got the WTC style terrain, and you've got LGT have got their own standard terrain now.
Yeah, so Frontline, haven't they?
Yeah, Frontline have got theirs. And like, it's all laser cut MDF, but it's usually painted not to a high standard, but if it's green, it's a jungle. If it's red, it's Mechanicum. If it's grey, it's a city.
Yeah.
And that's I think if you're a big event and you dip under that, then you're not giving the people the value.
One of the things we've discussed quite extensively here when it comes to the hobby house events is depending on what type of event we're trying to put on, we really want to make sure people get cool experiences. Now, one of the things I really liked, you mentioned No Retreat earlier from SM. Yeah. One of the things I really liked about SM, which I've never really experienced since, is like round one would be mission A, right? Cool, round one's mission A. And you get pulled on a table and all the table layouts are different. Now, we're in this weird world now, competitively at the big events at least, where everyone wants to be playing the exact same mission on the exact same table layout. So it doesn't matter what table you're on. You've got an equal opportunity essentially, because it's the same table layout, same mission. SM were like, it's not the same table layout because they're cool narrative tables. Yeah. You are playing the same mission, but it's not the same table layout. Just fucking go for it. And I kind of want to be in a place where we do a similar thing. I would rather we had 20 tables of fucking cool narrative-looking modular terrain that stay fixed to those 20 tables all weekend, and all we do is we make sure that Joe, who turns up, doesn't play on table one more than once. Yeah. So when you go to each table, you're playing on a different layout that looks cool every single time. So you get, because ultimately...
Well, I said before that you'd have a different table layout, but that layout would be fixed to a mission. So each table is a different mission.
Well, there's ways we can do it, but I want people to have a cool. I want people to go away from a tournament having had an amazing experience, which was quite immersive. So much so they're like, I want to go back.
Well, you want 20 tables or 20 streaming tables? That's what I'd want. Yes. I would ban people from being in the store for like an hour before or 2 hours before we closed, so I could set up all the tables for
Well,
the next day.
the only thing we wouldn't do in terms of streaming tables is we wouldn't add all the stones, only because we wouldn't add the stones for tournaments. Joe, to start with, I don't want 3 tons of fucking fish.
What
tank
I would
gravel.
probably do is make solid fixed rubble piles.
Yeah,
that
that's
slot
fine.
Up to a building.
That's perfectly okay. But I wouldn't want 300 tons of fucking fish gravel that I'm hoovering up at the end of every day because I know you can't keep it on the table. And secondly, it creates issues for people's model placement when they play. Anyway, we're over time. Tox Trio, thank you for the big pink 50, you legend. I absolutely despise painting. It takes me ages to get something battle ready, but I never cared for the 10 points because I was playing for a good time. A guy at my local gaming store, every time he wins by points, he starts gloating that he won because I don't paint. He sounds like a douchebag.
Yeah. You should hit him with your car. Well, don't do that. Because if you do now, then it sounds like I made you do it. But, yeah, he sounds awful. Because I played this weekend where I wrote a list that had tactics was not brought into it, or competitive play was not any part of my scheme. It was put things in Land Raiders, push them forward, see what happens. 5 games in a row. And most of my opponents won. Surprise, surprise. But they had a great time. I had a great time. Like, I didn't care what the score was, right? And the more games I lost, I ended up in a pool of people that were just happy to be playing games, right? And I think that's important. Like, whether your models are painted or not, as long as you're having fun.
So yeah, Tox Trio, to be honest with you, I think you've probably got the right attitude. I think it probably says more about him if he's gloating about the fact that the other thing as well is I genuinely wouldn't be a person that goes, I only won because you didn't paint. Oh, cool. So you're saying you're actually a bit shit. Because the only reason why you won is because I didn't paint.
Yeah.
You're not saying you won because you beat me. You're saying you won because I didn't paint.
You'd be like, you say, well, what you're saying, mate, is that if I painted my models,
I win.
You'd lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good job I'm not then, isn't it? So, anyway, you guys have been incredible today. There's lots of exclamation mark gift and exclamation mark member, and no one did it.
Professional beggars. But, what's happening tonight?
40k game, innit?
40 game. Brom's giving us some armies to play with, and we've ignored them.
Yes, we do that a lot.
Mainly because I don't want to run the army that he's given me.
So tonight at 7:30, we'll go live again with a live game of Warhammer 40k 10th edition. It's a special episode tonight because we're being sponsored by Laser Cut Architect. Exclamation mark Laser Cut Architect, or exclamation mark LCA right now will give you a link to his current product. By tonight, it will be his brand new Kickstarter link, which is live and has been for just over a week. We finally have our hands on this stuff. Honestly, I'm a bit gutted for him at the moment. And the reason being is he has one backer for products right now on his products, and they are fucking beautiful. Joe has already said, having looked at the little sample that he's given us, I would like to make a whole table of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice. Tonight we'll be sharing that link. We'll be sharing his Kickstarter. We'll be sharing the terrain. We'll be looking at it. It's amazing stuff. And he's a very good friend of the channel. And I quite literally want to fill Hobby House with his terrain in the future. We need to keep him going. He's nowhere near the target. There's a week and a half left to go. Perhaps you guys can help me push him over the edge this evening. So we'll be talking about that tonight. We'll be showcasing that product. It's a sponsored episode from Laser Cut Architect. Tomorrow at 9:30, I'll be back with 40k After Dark for another chinwag and to drink some. I haven't got any mead, actually. I think I run out, but we'll be doing that tomorrow evening. And the weekend, there'll be a ton of stuff on exclamation mark Twitch of me hobbying things. And I'm thinking I might build some World Eaters. Maybe I'll build some more tree people. Maybe I'll build some more Dark Angels. I'm just really loving the hobby right now, Joe.
Yeah, I'm much excited. Big wow.
Much excited, big wow. Thank you so much, Drapkin, for the gifted one. And thank you so much, Cornet Ed, the hero. Let's fill Liam's hobby hole. It's not my hobby hole. Anyway, thank you, Cornet, for the hero, for the 5 gifted. You people are incredible. We'll see you all this evening. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, have a wonderful time.